Hey, how are you guys doing? Welcome to my brand new YouTube channel, where I'll be regularly sharing true scary stories that will make you question the existence of the supernatural. Now, before I start the video, I'd like to let you guys know that next week, I'll feature the 3 best stories from the ones that you guys send me. So if you have any spine-chilling crazy stories that you want to share with the listeners, send it over to scared460@gmail.com. I'll also have the link down below in the description, so don't worry, you can send your story after you've finished listening to this compilation of stories. With that being said, let's start with the first story. I didn't know where to put my experiences, out of paranoia that I will be categorized as a lunatic. Ironically, I had a history of being a hard skeptic who mocks anything that is paranormal, supernatural, anything that is spiritual. But I know it's because I don't want to give it attention out of fear, and I don't want to see visions again. Seeing visions and these entities was very confounding and irritating for me as a child. I tried testing if I was schizophrenic, but no, it also came with hearing them, feeling them, and even catching their scent for just as long. But the ones I'd like to talk about today are shadow people. They were the first real, vivid experiences I knew weren't just figments of my imagination. As much as I wish it was. I remember they came in groups at night, but there was one who was darker than the very shadows themselves. The darkness of this entity was so dense that light seemed to be absorbed on contact to it, nor can the light reflect to escape its figure. I would see it come in through the light of the bathroom door, like directly in the light, so I know it wasn't just shadows playing tricks. Its feet would crunch against the carpet floor as it moves around my bed, never taking its eyes off of me. It was tall, but it would slink down behind the foot of the bed where its head would peek out. This one and those around it would give off emotions of sheer trepidation. If I move, if I don't pretend to sleep, it will be right there getting closer. Alongside these wide-awake terrors, I would have horrible nightmares back to back every night. I decided to change it up a bit. I wanted to create a truce to end it, so I would offer it cookies under my bed as a child. Of course, none were taken, or I assumed my father would simply know about it and eat them. Either way, it was symbolic that I just wanted to ease my stress. However, one night when I was 7, I dreamt that I jumped out of bed and confronted the shadow person. I started to slowly suffocate him until he dissolved. Ever since that dream, the shadow people stopped visiting. Until I met another shadow person years after in a new home over 15 years later. It was a very familiar aura coming up the stairs of that house. In the shadows, I saw a dense blackness, and I know it was watching me. It gives off the same eerie, air-thickening sensations, but I don't sense it was a threat. It would stare at me in its eerie glory of being the darkest of shadows, and its ever-moving figure, but it kept its distance. Something in me told me, you have far more power now, and it knows it. I was also getting into witchcraft after finally realizing nothing can help me truly escape from seeing or interacting with spirits/entities, etc., and I don't want the fear of it to control me anymore. I set up wards, looked at him in the darkness of my house one night and said, you try anything, I'll inflict harm and throw you out in the cold. I don't know what good that'll do, but in my observation, they seem to dislike direct confrontation. Or, any indication that you have any intents will to fight back. Over time, I didn't pay too much mind with this entity and just allowed it to wander around. No ill happenings has taken place, no indications that there were any strange mood drops, and the presence felt less intrusive despite that it's still prevalently there. I had friends whom are into mediumship immediately pick him up in my home, but they also didn't feel any really threatening other than the usual eeriness. One night, I felt a dip in my bed before I went to sleep. I felt and heard someone breathing 2 in staccato breaths. I didn't really want to look over at what it was other than I knew who it was. It just simply laid there next to me, and I can just imagine it was staring. I decided to say, you can lay here if you want, but anything else, I will hurt you. I was actually more scared than I tried to let on. After researching on the phenomenon of shadow people, they seem to feel and take that fear in as an advantage. But seemingly in this case, it was nervous in return. The turn was when I had a dream, or I astral projected. I went out of my body and started to wander about my own home. Before I started to venture beyond my front door, I saw it stepping into my view, and I heard its raspy, distorted voice echo, go back to your body. It's dangerous out there without it. With that, it escorted me back into my bedroom and I woke up. Since then, when I have dreams of leaving my body, I see the entity coming in to block me and send me back and tell me it's for my safety. I decided it wasn't going to hurt me, and I made the decision to set up some fresh black tea upon my altar for him, as a sign of truce for now. In the reality of this, I am still readily available to the idea that I am just delusional, it was tricking me, or it was a figment of my imagination. During times when I want to give up the notion it's real, I had people claim they saw a really dark humanoid shadow coming and going by the blink of an eye in my home, without me telling them anything about it. Currently, for now, he is considered a family member of my spiritual team. I will not give away his name other than he's grown to be actually a someone of comfort. However, for any entity or any person embodying a vessel, I won't let all of my guard down if anything else happens. I am still very perplexed about the concept of what is a shadow person, other than articles upon articles of supposed assumptions, or experts preaching their demonic, guardians, extraterrestrials, or other. The only thing I care about is if it respects my boundaries, and if it later shows other considerations, I will return the favor and I'll gain respect for it until further notice. Before we move on to the next story, I just wanted to remind you, these stories are very dark, and not for the faint of heart. Such stories stimulate your imagination for the worse. A mind haunted by the voices coming from seemingly nowhere. So, if you are feeling uncomfortable, you better grab a friend and listen together. Because it's only going to get even darker from here onwards. I was around 15 and it was the summertime. I had a friend 2 years younger than me and I often went to her house. She had a friend over that day, so that makes an extra witness as well. We were all goofing around in her above ground pool. She has a little brother about 9 too. He was inside as the three of us girls were swimming. Since I'm double the age that I was now, I can't really remember who saw this first, but we all three saw what looked like a flashlight going crazy inside her house. We all got out of the pool and slowly went towards the house and peeked through that sliding glass door we seen it through, and we couldn't see her brother or anyone. She tried sliding the door open, but it was locked. The flashlight, round light, was still going crazy, just circling all over the house. We were scared and just assumed someone had broken in. That was our first thought, but we never saw anyone walking around. My friend then started screaming for her little brother to come open the door for us. When he came to the door, he tried yanking and just couldn't open it for us. All the while, this ball of light still moving all over that living room right behind him. We finally just went around the house and was able to come through the front door. The light was gone. We tiptoed around the house looking for an intruder. Searched the closets, showers, nothing. When her grandmother came home from work, that was the first thing my friend mentioned was our bizarre day, and the grandma had a reaction that neither of us were expecting. She started choking up and crying. She then told us that she feels in her heart that that ball of light was her mom. She said her mom said she would come back as an orb and to look for her, but it had been 8 years and she hadn't seen it yet. We didn't and still don't know what to think, but looking back at that day, it really couldn't have been a flashlight because it was in mid-air too. I just remember being so scared for our lives in the moment, thinking a person was inside her house and would harm us if he knew anyone was home. But why would her great-grandmother lock us out? I'm not sure what to think, but if her grandma was right, it was my only orb experience. Out of all of my experiences, I'm surprised I haven't thought to write about my grandparents' house until now. Currently, they are living in a retirement home, but for 27 years, they lived in a beautiful home in the woods in North Raleigh. 10 or more of those years I had spent nearly every weekend at that house with them from Friday to Sunday night. In all of those years, I never got over my fears, just something about that house, or probably the property more like. I'm not sure, but I think they were the only people that ever lived in it. It was actually a really nice neighborhood, but it was heavily wooded in between each home. I also would like to add before I jump in, is this house was really fancy, nice walls and carpet, and just great architecturally. Just in case anyone wonders if it was some old, beaten up house, it definitely was not. The earliest memory of my fears was their windows. But only at night. This might be a common fear, I'm not even sure. They had tall windows that went from the floor to almost the ceiling in most of the rooms. At night, I was so frightened walking from the living room across the house into the guest room that I slept in. I would hold on to my grandma so tightly while walking with her. I think my biggest worry was imagining a creepy man being able to watch me or all of us, but we can't see him. They didn't have curtains, but they did have blinds, and they didn't pull them down in the beginning until I begged my grandma to when I got older, but still a kid. She thought I was so strange for being so afraid. My grandma is the most gentle, sweet, quiet, feminine little grandma you could imagine. I felt totally safe with her. It was just that house. They had an old furniture room that was directly next to the guest room I slept in. Oh. And by the way, I didn't start sleeping in there until around age 9. I slept with my grandma in their room, and we made my grandpa sleep in the guest room for the first couple of years I was regularly going there. Back to this old furniture room. There was an antique couch and 2 matching chairs, a Bible from the early 1900s that I have today, a creepy clown velvet picture hung up, and pictures of my grandma's family on the wall from her childhood. I was completely afraid of this room. Or all of the rooms on this wing of the house, but this one especially. I pinned it on the clown picture, but now that I'm older, I'm realizing it's just that whole part of the house. I had toys in that closet, so I usually had to go in there if I wanted to get my toys out. When exiting, I had to run. Something inside me made me feel like I had to run. And that feeling lasted until my 20s. I'd run across the house into the living room, where I felt the safest apparently. I'd look back and of course, see nothing had chased me. One particular day I was in the bathtub and heard who I swore was my grandma walking back and forth outside of the bathroom. It was only us home. I had called for her to see if she'd pop her head in so I could ask what she's doing, but no answer. After my bath and I had gotten dressed, I found her in the living room doing Bible study, and she said she had not been back there at all. That gave me chills because I know the sounds of them walking on that thick carpet. It's not too heavy, but you still just get familiar with sounds. I had my step-siblings stay with me for a weekend before, and they too heard the steps while they were taking a shower, but thought or asked if it was me. I had another childhood friend stay with me, and she got an awful vibe from those back rooms as well. But never my grandparents. They never felt what I felt. It only got worse when I was older, not better unfortunately. Still ran out of the old furniture room and now was hearing a woman's voice praying aloud. That was only at night when I was trying to sleep. It only happened twice though, but extremely scary for me even at age 17. I just always felt like someone was in the guest room with me. I made it a routine to check under the bed before lying in it and inside the closet. Mind you, I was doing none of these things at my home with my dad and stepmom. I would lay there for what felt like an hour or more, just scared for my life until I would finally pass out into my night's rest. Even though I felt so uneasy at my grandparents, I loved them so much that I never refused to go there. I just dealt with the fright for years just to be with them. I just wonder who was watching me. Was it my grandma's mother who had passed away long ago? Was it something from the past on that property? I'll never know. I have so many amazing memories, growing up with them and visiting that house, but the feeling that house gave me was not like anything I have experienced since. Since you've made it this far into the video, I'd like to make a request. If you have enjoyed yourself so far, I'd really appreciate it if you like the video and subscribe to my channel for more upcoming horror stories. Help push this channel into the algorithm. Now, with that being said, let's continue on with the stories. If you want to go to any place that is haunted, just go to the small city of Savannah, Georgia. It's teeming with haunted life. You can't escape it when you're there. Every inch too of that city is haunted, and it makes sense since it's one of the oldest towns in the United States. The locals would knowingly live side by side with these spirits as if they're residents nonchalantly. I once saw an object move on its own next to a cashier, and he just casually moved it back and said, "Hey, Ghost of Kevin, stop moving my stuff already." The city even thrives off of its paranormal attraction with bus and nightly tours. I went to college there as a hard skeptic, to come out as a total believer. Fun fact, my first dorm was formerly a coffin factory. That's how weirdly macabre this little city can be. I had many ghost stories from that city in my 4 years there, but I'll tell one of them that still gives me the creeps to this day. One night in my dorm, I woke up around 2 a.m. and I needed to use the bathroom. As I went out across the hall to go, I saw someone at the corner of my eye coming out from their room and started walking towards the other bathroom on that side. I didn't think much of it and thought it was my dorm mate who just happened to go at the same time. She tends to stay up really late to finish assignments anyhow. I did my business and started to walk back only to see her walking back like me. I turned to look and wave at her, but stopped dead in my tracks, and so did this person. This girl wasn't my dorm mate. She had red hair, pale features, and she was wearing this large t-shirt that covers her down to her knees. What's extremely eerie was the fact she stopped at the same time when I turned to look at her, but she wasn't looking at me. She was looking right towards the room where my dorm mate would be. I started to wonder if the door leading to the bathroom had opened to begin with. I got tense, and quickly went into my room to shut the door and lock it. It took me a moment and I decided it was just late night fogs and I imagined it, or it was a friend of hers. A peculiar friend she has. However, my door started to violently shake. Someone was trying to open the door in a hurry. I was startled and I called out to my dorm mate if that was her. No answer. I decided to open the door to see that no one was there. I felt freaked out, of course, but I just wanted to think it was just my mind playing tricks with me, them playing a prank, or I was just fatigued. I eventually went back to sleep, but I was awoken again by something unknown. I felt something wasn't right. I was about to turn my lamp back on until I saw something at the corner of my eye again. And it was in front of my door in my room. Obviously I was scared now, and I thought it was a good idea to look right at where I supposedly saw someone, and I did. It was the same girl, staring at me, and she had these terrifying sad, pit black eyes. I yelled in shock and switched on the lamp to find her gone right after. It wasn't long until my dorm mate in my hall came out and asked if I was okay. I was confident enough to tell her what I saw, but she didn't know what to think. I couldn't go back to sleep that night. Later, I decided to ask my dorm mate across the hall about what happened. When I described it to her, she immediately froze and she looked a little scared herself. She told me, I saw her too. To be honest, I did some research on my own time about any significant hauntings in our dorms. I found a case where a female student committed suicide in my room where I stay in. Sadly, there are cases of students committing suicide notoriously so every year attending this college. To this day, it makes the hairs from the back of my head stand just thinking about it. But I do hope that this spirit finds peace. This is my first time submitting my personal story, as I am too shy to share it with anyone and have not even shared it with my family. However, I feel safe on this website because no one will judge me here. This is a true incident that I witnessed, and I hope you guys will understand what I went through. So here is my story. I came to Mumbai in 2019 from Kanpur in search of a job, and quickly, with my friend's recommendation, I received a job offer at a well-known marketing company. In the beginning, I stayed with my friend for a couple of months. However, I needed to find my own apartment so that I can have my own space. After a few weeks of searching on the internet, I found a rented apartment close to my office, which was located in Harry East. Quickly I moved in and had my own space. I was happy, but my happiness did not last long. I still remember it was the 4th of December 2019 and I came back home around 10:30 p.m. after a long day at work. I just wanted to rest, so I decided to order my meal from an online food delivery service, and that's when things went the wrong way. On the app, it showed 25 minutes for the food to be delivered, so I decided to have a quick shower and wait for my dinner. Meanwhile, I was preparing for my shower. I get a phone call from my mother. I got so engrossed talking to her that I did not realize that we spoke for almost an hour and my food hasn't been delivered. I ended my call with my mother and decided to call the delivery guy. Even after calling him several times, he did not answer. I was pissed now and decided to call the restaurant. After inquiring with them, they informed me that the delivery guy left quite some time ago and they would check on him and call me back. I was so pissed that I was going to get bad reviews and even complain to the delivery service team. Meanwhile, I was typing the review, the doorbell rang and I was all ready to fight, but the minute I opened the door I was confused and shocked at the same time. I could see the delivery guy standing outside my door, but he was bleeding from his head. My anger soon turned into concern, and asked him if he was fine and needed medical help. But he did not reply to my question. He just said I am sorry for being late, and he moved his hand towards me to give me my food. But it was strange that he did not have the food package with him. He himself got confused and said that he must have left the food package on his bike and said he will come back in a minute. While all this happened, I got a call from the restaurant's manager, and he said, "We are sorry to inform you, but our delivery boy has met with an accident and died on the spot. We will resend you the order." After hearing this, I could not believe what happened to me. I was shocked and confused. I even went down to check if the delivery guy was there, but could not find anyone. I even checked with my building watchman, but he did not see any delivery guy. I did not tell this to anyone, but I know I felt something supernatural which cannot be explained. This incident still haunts me to date. I hope you could feel what I felt, but I am still scared to share this story with anyone because I am afraid no one will believe me. Glad you guys listened till the end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, press the bell icon and share with your friends. See you guys in the next Scary Stories video. Stay aware and take care.